get us started.
All right, guys, we're about halfway through the budget process. We're looking at, I believe, September the 8th, I think is the date. Let's see, September, for our first public hearing is on September 8th. So what we got to do is we need to figure out what we're going to do before we get to September 8th. That is your first official public hearing where you'll vote for the first time for the first reading of your budget. We've been through a lot of stuff. It's y'all's time to get comfortable with the budget, but we do have a couple of big movers that we jump into today in reference to water. One being the SRF funding. We received the final approval last Friday as to what we're entitled to.
Yes, yeah.
If you'll turn to your handout, it's entitled from Matt Aaron. Mr. Langston, what we're going to jump into to start with is actually the approval we got from the state revolving fund on the downtown water lines. There's a handout there that's from Matt Karen. At the next meeting, we need to formally vote on it to approve it or not. But what you have before you in reference to the SRF is we got approval for $2,161,794. Okay. Of that, the grant portion is only $655. 30% is all you're gonna get on grant. 70% is gonna be loan. We got the application Friday as well, so we've got to get that filled out. But we need y'all's approval to move forward and to sign off saying, hey, we want to borrow roughly $1.4 million to get the $655,000.
What's the interest rate?
I have not seen it yet on there. Generally, it's between 1% and 2%. It's the best interest rate you'll be able to find out there versus the market out there for commercial banking. I haven't seen that on that application.
So you're borrowing it from the state fund?
Yes. Yeah, it's the best rates going. We were expecting to get somewhere around 50% is what we normally get. Some cases we got up to 80 after Hurricane Michael.
Yeah.
And Commissioner Lowry actually has been helping out too, and I think Commissioner Kerrigan too actually spoke with somebody on this down at the conference a couple of weeks back. So we're trying to work it to see if we can get something more. But if you read through the docs on there, it says you can get up to amount, but at the end of the day, I think it's the discretion of the actual state revolving fund who actually determines that.
Is this the same project that the governor gave us the check for? City Impact?
Yes, sir. What we did was we were hoping to get all the money to be able to do the whole project. We got $675,000. We went ahead and we awarded a bid to Monolith pending approval from SRF. We're $182,000 short. So we've got to make a decision as to, okay, are we going to pull that $182,000 from somewhere else? Go ahead and award that thing and get it moving? Or are we going to sit back and wait till this other money is guaranteed and available for getting the project? I think we need to try to find $182,000.
Yeah.
And go ahead and award this thing and then use this money for phase 2 and phase 3.
Yeah.
We don't know how much this project's going to cost at the end of the day, guys. We were initially thinking $700,000 was going to be close to doing all of downtown. And now we're talking about only covering 1st Street and 2nd Street down Marina Drive. So I'm hoping this is going to be enough to finish out downtown, but there is no guarantees in Mr. Brandon.
So you want, in the current budget, you want to find $183,000 for bring cash forward.
Yeah.
So that'll do that. And then you want to borrow the balance, hopefully. But why don't we bid that project, the remainder out, so we'll know what it costs?
We will. You're absolutely right. That'd be the
Before we
next
borrow the money.
Well,
2.1's not gonna come in.
yeah, this money's not going to come in for a while. That we just got the award notice on here right now. And at the end of the day, you don't have to draw down on that money if you don't want to. So basically, that we got an estimate from our engineers what we thought it was going to cost to finish out the project. So went in and got that money available for you on there. But yes, we have got to bid out the remainder of the project on there to see what those true numbers are. So once you get those numbers back, you got a pot of money over here that you can pull it out of if you want to, or some other source. But we just didn't have another viable source of money to get the whole.
So it's, to me, it sounds more like a line of credit with the state instead of them giving you the money. You have it available.
Yes, sir. You do a drawdown. When you do a drawdown, 70% will be loan, 30% of that would be grant on there, is how that works off of there. So yes, sir, whatever you get the bids in, you send it up to them and they approve it or not, and then you get a drawdown. And that's what we've done all over town. We got some grant money that was 100% grant, and then, but what we did for most of the projects in town was we used that state revolving fund because it was the next best thing.
We paid off all of our state revolving fund loans when we did the refinance. And at that time, they were at 3.5%, 3.6% at that time. Not sure what that interest rate was going to be at this point.
They'll tell us the next step is we have to fill out the application too. So we're gonna have y'all approve to fill out that application to go ahead and try to free up to.
What will that add to our total debt?
This would add roughly about 1.4, 1.5, plus we have, you gotta remember, we just borrowed some more money too. We borrowed money with the downtown, with the Long Avenue project, not all that was grant either, so let's get it.
What would be our total debt after the downtown and the Long Avenue?
Yeah, I had pull those together. It's 9 million now.
I was gonna say it's somewhere between 10 and 11 million dollars is what you're gonna be back up with, so. We got up close to 20 at one time, and we refinanced everything, but let us get a full breakdown and we can email it out to y'all so you got it, but it's somewhere in the 10 to 11 million dollars.
Start phase one, monolith,
Yes, sir.
what was that?
We're short $182,000. We got $675,000 from legislative appropriation that's sitting there. And, then we got the bids in, based on the new bids, we need to come up with $182,000 for reform. Scott.
Yeah, I would support finding that fund. I mean, the other day, last time we met, we found almost $750,000.
I think we can do one of two things. We're still in our current budget year. Let's see what Mike can work his magic on finding it in your current budget. And then you're only a month and a half away from your new budget. We got enough money to get this project rolling on there. So I think at our next meeting, we need to go ahead and award this contract. However you want to award it on there, because last time you did an opinion on SRF, let's take care of the SRF loan. Let's go ahead and get these guys working. And let's get Mike, find out whether we're going to pull it from this fiscal year or next fiscal year, the $182,000.
Mike, what is your projection, Carrie? Contingency?
Well, right now, we're at about $1.2 million above our starting cash position for the beginning of this fiscal year. But that's going to be dependent upon these large projects and whether we have large payouts on the Beacon Hill project, probably between now and the end of September, will be the driver of that maintaining so long.
But right now, there's 1.1 billion that is projected to just not be used and carried over.
Well, yes, typically what I'll do is, like, for instance, we started at 2.8 million at the beginning of this fiscal year in our cash operating account. If we end the year at $3.8 million, then I roll $1 million into our contingency account.
Right.
And reserve that fund, and we start each fiscal year with the same 2.8 million balance in our operating cash.
How much is in the contingency fund today?
In total, it's 9 million in total, but I think about 4 million of that is insurance and FEMA recovery funds that we've escrowed. So that's about 9 million.
I think we just found
I think we can easily say that when we finalize this budget in here, let's let Mike work on it for the next budget meeting, get y'all's approval at the next meeting, and then we can find out 182,000. Yes, our cash income, we spent more money this year than we have in a lot of years for all the projects, plus the projects went over, guys, so we might have had to pull the money out of our own back pocket to pay for this project. But I think we can easily come up with 182. Let's keep this thing rolling. Let's go ahead and finalize this loan application. Figure out what it's going to cost to finish out downtown, because we've got a hotel coming online. We have the theater coming online. We have the marina already online. And all these new buildings are big sprinkler systems, a lot of water, and we need these. That's the last big piece of the puzzle, isn't it, John? Everything else, like we said before, we save the best for last because we do these with the hardest part. They're in the alleys, there's a lot of utilities, conflicts, but we need to finish it up.
So we need to vote on that our next meeting, which is about, 10 days away or so.
Yeah. So that's why we need to.
So does that give you time to fill out, I mean, it gives you time to fill it out, but does it meet the deadline? Is there any deadline?
We're good within that. The next step, we just got awarded last Friday. We got the award letter on there, so
Okay,
now the ball's in our court to get the application filled out, get y'all's approval on it so we can, because now we gotta do the paperwork. Now's the long part. You got a pre-approval is what you have, just like when you go get any type of loan, but now they really want to see your financial docs and like, well, all the financials, like,
What's the term of that, with that?
you can do a 20 or a 30 a lot of times on there. So that's what we gotta get into the meetup. They'll give back our terms. Once we get the application filled out, then they'll come back with the terms, tell us, okay, here's what you're offering, 20 or 30 years.
then we could go out and open market, there's no way to.
That's where it comes up.
And what we've done is, yeah, and what we did with the last time is, we don't have a prepayment penalty, with the Regions loan that we have now. So we got a really good deal. I can't remember the interest rate in that Regions that we got, Dave.
1.8. I mean, 1.8.
Yeah, it's less than 8%, I think. It was just phenomenal. But we don't have a prepay, so what we've been doing is, we've been letting new development got paid on our loan. We had close to $20 million, I forgot what the balance was we paid down, but we paid millions of dollars down on our last loan using impact. Because we let new development pay our debt, because that's what costs us more than anything else is expansion.
All right, let's do it.
So we'll have that for the next meeting. The other item we have, in reference to one of the bigger items we need to get your approval, the next thing is a modification to your current contract you have on your water towers. Right now, it's under USG Water. It used to be under, they changed names how many times? Utility Services. What the city has, we have an agreement, used to be Utility Services. They maintain our tank. We allow them to put the antennas and stuff on top of our tank. But basically, at the end of the day now, I think we still got $60,000 back that we might the past year for Utility Services, because they have a contract with Verizon to put stuff on water towers. We just went through, a process with DEP where they came down and done an inspection. One of the items that we're looking at was the shark tank on there about our sample ports and aeration in the tank. Whenever the summer months come, chlorine dissipates in your tank. Larry's done a phenomenal job with the numbers on there. We passed every single month. But it's always been a challenge with that shark tank heating up in there. So this is one thing DEP was concerned about. So we went back to Utility Services and said, okay, guys, what can you do to help out to change this sample point and potentially put some aeration in the tank? $40-something thousand, what they're talking about total. They will actually amend our contract with the working on get you a proposed amendment to it for option number 4. Option number 4, I'll let Larry explain to you what this product is, but they said this was adequate to mix that tank, and we can spread it out over 3 years under our contract, no interest. So there's no difference in price, whether I write them a check for $40-something thousand or give them $16,188 over our contract. So our thought was that there's no difference in the price, let's just amend our contract, rock and roll, that way it really don't affect his end of the year budget this year, $16,000.
Well, that mix was just gonna have, turn the water over course, keep your visual pressure. And, yeah, we need.
So we're trying to give the best product we can, and we think this will be one extra step to help freshen it.
Well, what are we gonna do if they come back here before this budget is finalized and say the aerators you have at the water plant are not, don't meet code, I guess. Didn't they ding you on something there? Didn't they ding us on those aerators that we put in there ourselves? And they were, I guess we gotta wait approval for that or what, Larry?
That's the one that White City and St. Beach, now not in the water plant.
Okay, all right,
We got a permit for that one.
okay,
So we're good there.
okay. Yes, the others.
Yeah, those were put in before I became manager. So I gotta go back. You know, ain't much I can do about that.
So, in long story short, are we gonna have to replace those?
We don't
two?
know yet. What we had to do was, we had so many days to respond back to DEP. Larry sent the response back on there, so we're in a holding pattern, but there's a possibility we may have to come back to you and say, hey, let's amend the contract to add these two on here, or whatever we're gonna do to get approved. They work great. He gets great numbers on the tanks. But way back when, you know, I don't think they got the permit that got sent to DEP back 20 years ago.
Which option do you support there?
I think my budget say number 4 is the best, honestly.
You're comfortable with
I'm comfortable
option
with that.
4?
We've added that into the budget, assuming it's.
Okay, fine.
That's pretty good.
It'll be
deal.
full. That's the two items that'll be on the next agenda for you to vote on.
Okay.
What other handout we gave to you? We got a public records request yesterday, Ms. Pierce did, from a law firm, Cole, in reference to City Hall property complex. You got any documents, read through it, we'll start gathering that stuff up in the public record. All right, but one other thing that I have is, another one that's gotta come before you, also too, there's another SRF. Right before the water project, there was a lead and copper grant that, Dewberry suggested that we put in for through SRF. It's roughly 50%. It's $200,000 project to go out there and evaluate lead and copper. This is actually something new that we're being told that we're gonna have to go back and evaluate how much lead and copper is in the system on the customer side. So the first thing is to do a study to figure out how many houses in town have lead or copper on the other side of the meter on the private side. So we don't know what all this involves. I'll let John explain. He sat in with a meeting with.
I did. Yeah, I did. Josh and I had a video call conference with Lisa, the XFTP lawyer, engineer. And so the EPA's handed this rule down to everybody in the country. So, like Jim said, you know, this first grant is going to identify everything. Our system, as well as from the backside of our water meter to the edge of the customer's house. Not inside the structure, but just to the edge of the brick or wood or whatever it is. Now, once that's all done, there'll be future grants for the city to think about if we want to go beyond our system into the homeowners. It's still kind of convoluted, even Lisa said that. The EPA themselves really, in the state in particular, really has no idea how we're going to handle it at that point. But this at least gets us in compliance with the EPA's requirement of doing an assessment on our system. So I don't know how we can avoid doing it, to be honest.
And that's why we set up, but we have until November the 12th to have the application filled out with SRF saying thumbs up, we want to move forward. What's so ironic is this was just a couple of weeks before the water, 50%. But that means we still got to spend $100,000 out of our, or borrow.
Is it mandated that we apply during that time frame?
Yes. If we don't.
To apply to SRF.
Yes. SRF put a deadline on it to November 4th. I think it's either 12th or 14th.
No, my question is it mandated through EPA that the city of Port St. Joe enters into this?
We have
Project.
to do the project.
We have to do the project, not necessarily through SRF. So, you know, we could say no to the SRF, but I think from what I'm hearing is we're gonna have to do this. I'm not sure what the deadline is next year, year before. We're gonna have to do an evaluation of lead content.
You want a question? Rather than say, you gotta do it, instead of going out and borrowing $200,000 more dollars and spend $100,000 an hour, we get a letter saying you guys gotta do it. And I know John is correct that we're gonna have to do it, but when are we gonna get that letter from EPA or DEP saying you gotta do it?
I'd like to know what some of the other smaller cities comparable to St. Joe are intending. This is one of those free money projects came out with the current group in Congress and president that's running the country. That's where this is from. And that's probably going to change a couple years. And then this will all go away, by prediction.
We'll ask Dewberry to see if they got something from the EPA giving us a deadline.
Yeah. Let's look into that. I think this is going to go away.
That's in the budget, so if you pull that out, you'd say you found $100,000 right there.
Plugged in,
Unless we absolutely have to.
and that's what
For
we,
this particular,
based on the way it's set up.
I'd say pull it out. That's me. What do you guys?
Guess we have to try to get some more information.
This information, I mean, to me, it's coming down as a Band-Aid. Whether we'll understand exactly what Scott's saying, and have it. Listen to any kind of debates they had and stuff last night, we know that EPA oversight is something that is definitely going to be addressed. But in the meantime, I think what you're saying is with the state revolving fund and stuff, to be able to access this money, you have to apply by a certain. I think we need to get the information to find out, like Rex said, is this going to be a Band-Aid or is it? And look at agree with Scott, look at what other similar cities our size, how are they addressing this here in the state of Florida?
I know me and John have had several places saying, you should see the number of cities that jumped in on this thing on there that, there was hundreds of cities.
I mean, it's about, we're trying to take advantage.
I didn't want this money, right? And that's what Dewberry kept saying, was you better jump in here. We're like, we really want to, but then it was like, guys, you really, sure enough, when the list came out of the approved cities.
They chasing free money. They expect the federal government to pour a bunch of money in there. It's tied to lead paint. I watched a little thing on it. It has a lot to do with home that lead paint.
In Michigan, there's some communities that had the lead pipe issues that's where it all got started, but.
The good thing is, the city has spent millions of dollars over the last 10 years replacing water lines. We got very little on our side. We don't know what's we have replaced 95% of all the water lines. So we're ahead of both those.
And we get that thing downtown.
That's just about every stick out of it in town.
Yeah.
We're in good shape there.
And but that's what you were saying now, the SRF said, all right, we got this pot of money for this project. And if you don't apply now, you may not get it. Well, next year, they're gonna next. SRF says, SRF.
It's the same theory. We got an approval, just like we got, it looks like on the water, but it says for lead and copper project. And it says $200,000 of that, $98,000 is grant, $102,000, I think is what they said the city's for. So they'll make us fill out a loan application, and then they'll give you the rates, terms, and all that good stuff.
Then we gotta start the engineering, all this stuff.
Yeah, that's who's gonna get the money. Lawyers and engineers.
They look for projects for you.
Absolutely.
Provided with compliance. The other thing I was gonna mention to you, something we talked about before, was we've been working with merchant management. That is who actually handles all our credit card stuff. With our water bills and sewer bills, we take in a tremendous amount of money on credit card. It's so easy. Everything from impact fees to water bills, we take it all at City Hall. We paid, what was it, $70-something thousand last year in fees off credit cards. So we looked into merchant management group, okay, what's our options on the convenience fee that we can cover these costs? Talk with them, you can go from 3 to 4%. If you want to cover your costs, 3%. So basically, if we charge the 3%, the closest they said they can get to covering the cost, of what's the guys we can charge people to be able to get our money back, is 3%. What would happen is with the transactions, if you went this route on there, whenever somebody come in there to pay at City Hall, they get a prompt, just like we do when we go everywhere, Walmart, the grocery store. Tell you, okay, if you use this credit card, you're gonna get hit with 3%. Be across the board. And then they come back and they charge us 2.913. They said that's the closest they can get to break it even. So that's the lowest they said the amount that we could do on there. That's what it said. He does.
It's there.
We don't want to make any money off of it, but we got to figure out how to, there's your $75,000.
We talked about eliminating the paid impact fees. Would you just leave that?
I just leave it and just charge it, give it the option to people. If they want to come in with a credit card to pay with their, so $100 water bill or $5,000 on the impact fees, they'll be prompt. They say, hey, look, you can use it, but here's the fees associated with it. That way we keep those options available.
Make it easier. We gotta utilize technology where we can and, have them out there with pencil trying to tell me what that's charging.
That's it.
Basically,
It'll be prompted, it'll be run through it on there, it'll be in the general ledger. But we had to pass a resolution to be able to pass, and it has to be called a convenience fee for that.
put it on the agenda for next meeting, let's get started on. I mean, y'all agree with, you know, covering cost of that?
First up,
Yeah, just put it on there, we'll vote on
Paying it in, correct?
it. Absolutely. Well, it's 3.5%.
Yeah, I see, you got that side, but I don't think it charges if you use the debit card, it's only if you use the credit card. I believe that's.
Couple other movers that we looked at, that we're spending a lot of money on hydrant meters. After Hurricane Michael, most houses had to be put on island. Saw a guy there yesterday. They come in, Larry and John had to make up these hydrant meters. Go out there to set them up on the hydrants out there to keep up with the water that they're using to drive these islands. These things are not cheap. So that's one of the things on there. We charge $500 now, I think, what we charge it. Guys, what are we looking at, some of these costs?
$1,600 for the meter.
Yeah, the cost of the meter.
Backflow there.
So, and the problem is, some of these guys want to keep them out for an extended period of time. We have to go try to round them up. We want to come back with a better option for us on there. So we want to bring something back to you on that figure.
Yeah, like a flat fee.
Flat.
Islands and so much per island.
And if you don't, basically what happens if you get the water charge, usually what we do is we need to cover the cost of that meter up front and do it as a deposit. They get it back as we do marketable. But main thing is, we need to get these things back. What they'll do too is, company A will work on this job, then they'll take it over to this other job or that one. They want to keep it in their inventory and move from job to job. So we've got to get our own credit. So we're going to bring something back.
But we are getting, they do pay for the water they use.
They do,
Because it's metered,
they do.
yeah, but
If we
we
get the
charge
meter- if we
500
get-
to get the meter.
But getting the meter back is always the tricky part.
Why not do away with the meter? Just charge them a flat fee.
If they move it too, they're gonna find it.
Yeah, get out of the meter business. Here's how much it costs to get water to fill a pool, or if you wanna drive islands, we can figure out what we've been collecting or how many gallons they're using.
No need to pay copy 2 times.
Yeah, we're gonna get our arms around it. We just want y'all to get something. That's the kind of things we want to hear from y'all. Okay, what's some ideas on this thing? Everybody's putting hands on my heart. We're coming to get these meters. We're desperate to get out of here.
Do we have?
I would tag those bucks. Well, tag them where you have the location bucks. You see that thing move? Send them a bill for $500 to the next location.
Yeah, we're gonna have to lock it up.
Put the tag inside.
Oh, most definitely. You put it on your phone, you put it on your dog, you put it anywhere.
Yeah.
There's technology right there.
Okay, we're gonna work on it, see if we can get something figured out.
It's cheap.
Call out. Last holiday, we got bombarded on Saturday morning. Was that July 4th? What day was that? We don't charge a service fee, something to think about. When our guys go out, pay our guys a flat fee for being on call, then we charge, then they get paid overtime. And then a lot of times, Bob and Mary will need some help on Saturday when they get 35 calls. You know, most of them right at the Cape, grinder pumps. You have these folks rent these big houses out at the Cape, the beaches, all these people in there, they inundate the grinder pumps. So guess what? Our guys have to go out, figure out how to get them cleaned out and get them back operational. So we're charging fee for that, unless we get out there and find out that they damaged the pump. I'll let John tell you what he sees on those.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a mixed bag of water and sewer, and my mind, where I was, you talked about once before, call outs. You know, we have a certain obligation to make sure sewer. So, you know, if it's a legitimate call, maybe there's not a need for that. But it's the calls we get that maybe it's in the house or it's the customer's problem. And you still have to expend the energy and time to go out and off to do that. And I think that would help immensely if once people get the idea, I better check my side first before I call the city, because we come out, you know, we charge you $85. We don't do anything, it's on your side, then you may not be so quick to call us next time. You know, spend a little of your own time. Gas company, same way. You know, you call your house to look at something, it's $85. When they just walk in and say, can't help you, it's $85.
Problem's gonna be the person that calls doesn't own the house. They rented it for the 7 days.
And most
And
of those have, yeah, agencies or, rental, we can just.
That's the kind of thing that we're gonna counter, something we just wanna throw out there, but we're spending a lot of money and a lot of resources on the weekends now that we got so many new houses.
We have that information building on, so let's get that bill pushed out.
Oh, it's the
Right.
owner,
That's bill,
it's in the owner.
or all the bill pushed out.
There's a lot of money being spent on overtime and getting resources to go out and work on. We're setting this feet down, guys.
Now, we talked about this issue more than once.
Yes.
I don't know why we haven't done it over the last few years. And it started when we had call outs to Overstreet, where our distribution system goes way out. And we said, well, we gotta cover our costs. We're going 20-something miles to check somebody's water meter or something like that. Didn't we add a charge on that, or do we just kind of talk about it?
We just talked about it.
Take about 3 trips to the Cape on Saturday, just 3 trips with the gas cost is just to get the guy out there.
Put it on the agenda for Tuesday, and y'all come back with a proposal to call out, and when somebody calls in, they're notified that there is a call out charge, and they can decide, and of course, the renters,
They can care less.
they don't care.
And then when that owner gets the bill, they're gonna raise hell and say, well, I didn't authorize you to come out.
It come out of the,
Yeah.
in the end,
Yeah.
it won't get hurt,
So
so.
something to think about in there is a fee that.
Well, we get on the agenda, so we quit thinking about it, and do something about it. We do that, all right, you got it, yeah. And that'll, that'll help the budget a little bit too, and people, when you tell them, they may say, well, let me check, and like you say, let me see what I got.
We get a phone call, just go turn the water meter off. They may have a leak inside, so well, we can go do that, but it's gonna cost you $85 to do that.
That is correct, and there's no exception if, if we go out there and say, like you said, St. Joe Gas walks in the door, it's call out. No matter whose fault. It's gotta be. And we do, call out money is, costs us a lot of money, paying employees for that.
We don't want to raise our water and sewer rates. And kind of good job of not doing that since 2020. If all these other costs keep creeping up, sooner or later, we're going to be facing. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to help everybody that we can. But as you see around, everybody ranks. That's all I've got. If the big moves on the thing over Mike, and so if you have any other questions or wherever direction you want to go from here.
Yeah, the only other change that I had is back on the first page, I added item number 17. I did receive our August numbers from the general fund for our utility services taxes and our sales taxes. And I did increase the revenue projections by $60K on the general fund. And I added that expense. I took my own accord and added that expense to the recreation, 250,000 that we had for the recreation, but certainly that 60K could go towards paving if you wanted to move it to paving or whatever else.
So what was the projection to start with?
Well, there were, I calculate the year projections through July. I had July's numbers. Well, I had August numbers, so I just updated it for a month. And so that increased the revenue projection for next year. The growth rate is only 3%. I'm using year-to-date actual plus 3% growth rate for next year.
So our revenue projections were what, X, and now 60,000 over X?
Right, exactly.
Okay,
Right, that's correct.
that's what it's.
So I just added that 60K to the recreation fund.
I'm fine staying there. It's just more for some people.
60,000?
And then the other items we've already discussed, we did shift the $375,000 in wastewater grinder fund revenue and updated the projections on the wastewater and added $500,000 to the sand filter issue that we have from $2.5 million sand filter issue, but we did add $500,000 in the budget on the wastewater side towards that, solving that problem. And then the rest of the items are water related, 19, 20, 21, we just discussed. So that's all I
So
have.
we're taking 20 out, correct? Out of the budget, line item 20.
Yeah, if that's the final decision, yeah, if we take the 20 out, then we would cut $100,000. So we would only be looking for $82,000 on that issue.
Right now, we've got in there pulling out of $100,000 back. So basically, what would happen if you sign the SRF document, what you can do is you can turn around and sign the loan and then pay them additional prepayment penalty on the way it's set up now. You can always with SRF pay down on the principal at any point in time. So if you decide not to do the project,
Yep. 20 years.
Then you can pay that back. So that's why all the cities are jumping.
It's cheap, it's a
If you
cheap
can,
funding
if you can pull the money out of the FRS to pay the match,
to get the
and
grant,
then you can find out what's happening politically, nationally, of what's actually gonna be a requirement when you're 2 years, 3 years down
that's
the
what
road.
they
You have no prepayment penalty to pay the money back, you just give it back and you're done.
So let's say the EPA tells us we gotta do it, okay? The engineers are saying it's gonna cost you $200,000. We went out to SRF and they said, we'll give you 50% on there, no prepayment penalty. So basically, you're signing a loan document, get half of it for free, and you can always pay it off at the other portion, say you have to pay $100,000 more. That's the thing. Leave it, let's get some more information. We've got to bring it down, okay, you've got to approve the application.
Thanks, Steve. Makes good business sense.
Sure is.
And then what you gotta do from there, then we gotta sign a task order to do the work. We gotta do some.
Okay.
That's all that I had on changes in general fund and wastewater and water discussed.
Jim, on the additional parking, Second Street, Second.
It's good point. Commissioner, Perry and I looked at the other day and put down with, Mr. Carlson the other day in reference to, we were talking about Second Street. He was all in favor of trying to create some more parking along there, on that corridor. What we have is we have, got several pots of money that you have going into the budget cycle that you need to decide how you want to spend with roads. Got the $1.5 million legislative appropriation, we're waiting on the grant. And then we also used the 300 $300,000 paving, road paving.
Oh, no, the paving is 400.
You've got
$420,000 in paving and then $50,000 in escrow, and
we got close to $2 million of road paving. So what we need to do is, we need to be looking at, lay down on which roads you potentially pave. And then what you'll do is you'll go out to bid for, you'll pick and choose which ones you're gonna do, but it sounds like that's a prime candidate. So that would give you, looking at it, I mean, we say, Steve, we thought, over 30 new parks.
Yeah, 30 to 36, probably, counting it all, right?
What about, the other side of the road? What did he?
Yeah.
Same thing.
Talk to Jim.
Oh, good.
Mark said that he was, or I haven't personally talked to him, yeah, but Mark said him and Jeff had talked about, you got a total agreement like that.
And basically what you would do is, you got a 60-foot right of way is what it should be, we'd have to get the plan to look at it. It should be 60 feet, and basically what you do is just narrow, make it just like you did between Reed Avenue and Williams Avenue.
Right.
But on the right side, when you go there, it's not been paved either, so you can gain about 8 spots there. And then go down on the other side, looking at about 12 on each side, so.
And the road would just go the same that comes from the, west side, it would just
South.
traffic.
Yep.
And then you exit out that way, it's one way.
It's
You
one way.
exit out.
Exit it
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, you'd have to make a decision down there by NAPA, look, chief, look at it, to figure out, there's kind of a
Yeah,
intersection, maybe you say right turn, I don't know, we ain't got that far.
yeah.
But you could gain probably 30 spots at least right there.
No, we need to go ahead and go out and bid, I guess, got an engineer.
So, yeah, all that's gotta be done, but yeah,
Get a task order on that, bro.
yeah.
See what they call.
Oh,
There's potential there to catch one.
Yeah, I think that's something we probably should do. The main thing on the engineering probably would be to make sure that water doesn't end up impacting a neighbor property.
Right, well, we had a drain that was put in the Long Avenue property right in the corner, so we talked about that, discussed it, but I think we need to make sure we
Make it there, right? All righty.
That's it unless, I don't have anything else specifically discussed.
That was the big thing we got for the next, that's the big movers on there. A lot of small stuff. Zoo stuff.
For now, I'm okay with most of this. Most of it, but anyway, Scott, go ahead.
I got a couple things. I'm gonna be as quick as possible.
Time, we got.
First thing I want to talk about is, every year we talk about health insurance and covering a certain amount, and I just want to throw something out for everybody to think about. The fact that if health insurance did not go up, we cover 100% of the employees' health insurance. This would be a good time to consider, at least think about the idea of going to that split, 75-25 split. In other words, in this year's budget, we would include, and we could vote on it at our regular meeting, that in the future, any increase in health coverage, the city would pay 75% of the increase and the employee would pay the 25. Then we get away from all that, the 800, is it 600? So just think about that and we can discuss it at an appropriate time.
75-25
On the
if
increase.
there's an increase. Not all the
Correct.
coverage.
We're right now, we're at full coverage, 100%. So the employee would then have an understanding if we did have a $100 increase next year. Well, they pay $25. And then you don't have to argue about it every single year. So that's something
In the past, Steve, what happened is we had a long discussion about when are we gonna cap how much we pay for insurance for individuals. And, when it got just, it was kept going, it's going like that.
Well, we virtually would be capping it at where we are today.
That's correct.
And then in the future, it gives time for the employee to make decisions based on what coverage do they want. And then especially if we offer some different ideas, that savings account. Anyway, just think about that.
Yeah.
The other thing is I have a question about the positions. I talked to Mike the other day and we roughly have, between what we could come up with, just under 20 open positions. That's either added spots that no one's ever been in, and we approved them, or it's vacancies that we're having a difficult time to fill. Well, I looked on our city website this morning and we have one position currently advertised. I think it's with John's department, Underground Utilities 1, I think is the title. So my question is, what is the process of, it comes before the commission, a position or a new position or a vacancy. We vote on it and either we support it or we deny it. So the positions that are included in our budget list and on Mike's computer are positions, obviously, we've already took that step. We voted on it, approved it. The only position that I can recall that we brought back to the commission was the project manager position. That position, I understand, we had a discussion and we said, you know what, let's hold off on filling that position. Even though it's listed, we've never funded it. Now, the majority, if not all of the other positions that I'm discussing, we're funding every year.
Yeah.
So we're putting the money there. So I'm curious as to who has the authority, if it's not us who approved the position and approved the funding, why aren't we listing all those positions and actively trying to fill those positions? And if there's other positions that I missed other than the project manager that I know we discussed here and voted in support of holding off, where are we at and why aren't all those positions being actively sought for filling?
Well, it's a revolving door with positions that John, Kevin, Larry, any of us could lose on there. So you'll see it in and out of there. You know, we have somebody that may leave, retire, or anything else, so that's a revolving door. But the one specifically about the new positions on there, I think Chief is in the process of filling his position that's over there. The code enforcement position's filled. The only one that I know of outside of that, because those all have the same title.
They do, they're all utility
They're all
service.
utility service workers.
That's
So
what-
that right there involves not just one employee, that involves what, 5 or
I think
6?
there's 5 or 6 right now, and some of those were vacancies we added, I think 4 of those last year in the budget. We've just been unsuccessful in getting candidates to come do that.
So
It's
the
same
one,
job title,
the
same
one
focus.
position title that's advertised on our website is multiple spots.
There's a
Okay,
6.
well, that needs to be clarified.
I agree.
Because I've looked at it twice and it looks like we have one opening, not 6.
So we put
We can
5.
put 6, sure,
Yeah,
sure.
and then, like, I'll give you an example. I know that I saw in our list of employee salaries, we showed 2 positions like we had approved, and those positions would be to pick up trash, to clean out ditches. Are we still funding those 2 positions?
If you look at if your pay scale is positions that are available to the city based on the approved pay scale we did last year. Do each one of those titles have a person behind it within the city? No, sir.
But we're funding them.
No, not necessarily.
Are we funding the 2 positions I'm referring to, Mike?
You're talking about the recreation positions?
No, there's 2 in there, and it said something about picking up debris, and I'm thinking it was cleaning out the ditches and stuff. But irregardless, we still have somewhere just under 20 positions that I don't understand why we're not actively advertising.
I think it's 20 now, I think we're filled 2, I think there's like 12 open positions.
Okay, let's say,
But
Wait,
9 of them, yeah, 12 new or open positions in the, yes, that were in the budget, yes.
yeah, we went down the list the other day at Mike's computer, and it was like 18.
Collection.
Yeah, I see what you're talking about. I've got 6 positions, that's it.
6.
Yeah,
And we have the deputy clerk position that's on hold now.
Yeah, let's talk about the deputy clerk position. What do we have to do to take it off of hold?
There has been a complaint filed with Tallahassee, so our
Right.
attorneys have told us to hold tight right now. We're in a hold tight.
Based on the complaint?
We put enough requirements on that position to get the type person that we really want for that position. So I wish we just remove it and reclassify it or whatever with requirements that you guys think it's gonna take to, operate that position. The way
We advertised it. We never even got to interview. We started taking applications. We got a complaint, then we had to turn it over to legal.
Will y'all look into that and see how many actual positions we're funding? We approved as the commission and we instructed staff to fill them. And then give me a list of what was put on hold, like the
That's
clerk's
right.
stuff, and then which ones are funded and which ones are not funded. Okay, because I think we have some spots. I think we can, I would support even putting some money towards spending where we advertise on some of these internet sites, ZipRecruiter, some of those kind of spots. It's very cheap, but it goes nationwide. We're putting it on a small city website, and we're putting a sign at the boat landing park, Frank Pate. I think we can do more to get the word out and hopefully get bodies in those spots.
We do advertise in local paper when we do have openings.
Yeah, but I think we're too small of just the St. Joe area when we could go nationwide for pennies on the dollar.
Commissioner, we have had calls from other places that have seen it, but the first thing they say is we can't afford to move. the cost of living there is too expensive.
Yeah, I get it, and then I know people that did leave California and come here, and they're working with the city today, so, I think we do a better job, at least putting the word out in a broader, arena. The last thing that I have, is I have met with a representative of the baseball, Little League, Dixie Youth, I guess, and a softball person. I spoke to Sandy Quinn, Commissioner Quinn. I've spoke to Clay Smallwood with the county and listened to their ideas about some renovations at 10th Street Ball Field. I know just the other day, we heard that our FERDAP committee met and they asked for two things. One was a splash pad, the other was renovation. Well, they asked for a sports complex and then realized, well, this is not gonna be possible, so take the money and put it toward 10th Street. We voted in favor of that. I think it's time to focus on 10th Street renovation, do the work that needs to be done, and move forward. The county has met with Jim as early as yesterday and pledged support. Went as far as to say if we could put money towards those pipes that are caving in under the ball field currently, that they would ask the county commissioners to actually do the labor. They have the equipment that's big enough to do it. We don't. So I believe now is the time to take advantage of the offer of partnership with the county. I know that the fact that I sit on the TDC Advisory Council representing the city of St. Joe, they have funding set aside for that project in their budget. I believe it was $526,000 that maybe they will tap into. The time is now, and the baseball community is serious about the city of St. Joe doing something to have ball fields that are safe, they're updated, and I think they have some great ideas. I know we've heard from at least one person that had concerns about the traffic, both with golf carts and sometimes vehicles entering into the ball field area. The discussion that I had with the baseball and softball community were in support of closing not only, I think, is it 10th Street going right through the ball field? Close 10th Street altogether, use part of that property as the new footprint for that area of 6 ball fields, and close the road that goes in front of the Stackhouse. And close it at the Stackhouse. You'd still pull up, you know where that ditch goes right across the road? Close it there so that people could come from both directions, but it just wouldn't be traffic going all the way through. And I thought, well, that's a great idea. So you're looking at the concern that was brought to us about foot traffic safety. I know there's a need for those roads to be shut down. There's no sense in having traffic go right through our kids running from field to field. But I will support taking the funding that's needed, moving it into that 10th Street project, meeting all the requirements that we've agreed to, because we all know there was a lawsuit filed. We would follow all of the language of that agreement, which virtually says we have to go through the steps I think we would have done anyway, but we'll make sure that we follow it. We'll have ample workshops in the community and let the community, the coaches, the players, the parents and grandparents steer us in the way that they want those ball fields developed. And just the other day, we had a light pole fall, a light pole fell at the field. So it's embarrassing that we can't do that. And other communities have these amazing ball fields. And I'm not talking about a multi-million-dollar complex. I'm talking about just make some new ball fields, put in some bathrooms, put in some stands. So I'm going to ask that it be put on the agenda for our next meeting, and we can discuss it and find out where we stand. I think I'm clear, 100% clear. I want to move forward. If we don't have the support of the board, then that's fine. I will give you your opinion, but I want to hear your opinion as to, do you support it for these kids or do you oppose it? And if you oppose it, we'll call for the vote. That's what I'm at.
Now, your 8th Street, closing 8th Street right there, you've got the issue of cars and golf carts coming down the bike path, walking path and parking all out in there. You close 8th Street, you gotta have somewhere for them to park.
Yeah,
Nowhere
That's
down
one
there
of
to
my biggest
park.
concerns.
Uh,
That's one of my biggest concerns is, as we sit right now, they ain't nowhere, they park in people's yards all the way.
Yeah, now, if you close 10th Street, where all those cars can go, the parking is one of my biggest concerns, it has been from the get-go.
Well, and
Kids
I'll tell
running
you
back
what I've learned just from meeting with a couple different people. You know, we do it here every day. And we had an example of that a minute ago when Commissioner Kerrigan went back to an item that he looked at in a different light. And then we're like, yeah, we need to change that and ask for the money after all. So that's what I envision the workshops taking care of. Get people that have different ideas. It may be that closing one road or both roads is not the best idea. All I'm asking today is we go back to where we were a few years back, prior to this lawsuit, and go back and do the things that we need to do and have to do. And when we have workshops, we'll hear from people. We'll hear from both the people that live in that area and the ones that are using the fields. It may not be that 10th Street closure is beneficial or not beneficial. That's just a conceptual idea that was brought up. But we can solve the issue and move forward. I'd hate to think that we're not gonna go into this project based on just one thing that may or may not work, because we can make some changes. I think I saw where Clay had made a drawing with the ideas that the baseball and the softball people, and they had additional parking identified. And I think it was where the old tennis courts
That was
were.
probably 5 years,
Yeah,
6 years ago, and, part of it was there, and also there was a parking lot down 13th Street.
Right, yeah,
Down on that end, but everything was based on all these new fields, because I was heavily involved in that, and so, John, but it also was contingent on piping the ditch,
right,
but on the other side of 10th Street, not just repairing the pipe that goes under, Benny Roberts.
Right.
That we
yeah,
know we've had issues with,
yeah,
but it's contingent on, because there's no room for expanding ball fields unless you pipe that ditch.
right.
And can we pipe the ditch? And
Well, and that's what I would ask at the next meeting is approval to vote on moving forward with applying for the DEP permit. Let the engineers, with me, I think water flows through a ditch and it flows through a pipe. I think that's proven fact, but some seem to not believe that. But I would rely on engineers who are trained experts on how water flows. I don't want to do anything that's going to cause harm to that neighborhood based on high rising waters in the future. But I will rely on an engineer that tells me this is how this is going to work. And it may be that you're actually improving the flow of water. I'm not going to listen to just an idea that, well, I don't believe water flows through the pipe. I heard that a few years ago. Didn't believe it then, don't believe it now. I'm not an expert on stormwater runoff, but we have people that are. So I'm going to ask on Tuesday that we support going out for the permit and apply for the permit. Let the experts come and tell us how much pipe we need to put in the ground, how much dirt we need to put over it.
and unfortunately, that will, probably take care of all the money that we've got to put aside
I don't
without
know.
making any good ball field.
You brought up this was one of the things that was addressed at the League of Cities, and it was very geared towards quality of life within your town. and it was talking about retaining people that live in your town by building better parks, having better, sports complexes, pickleball came up, but a lot of it, there was some issues where stormwater, drain offs and expanding parks, that there is some grant money out there right now that other cities are tapping into for improvement of parks, but addressing stormwater and stuff like that. So I think it's something we definitely need to reach out and say, let's see what's there.
And we need the Northwest Florida Water Management, they're gonna be right in the middle of this thing. And, unfortunately, there's still $800,000 out there that they want us to spend on something.
Yeah.
And, we can't get them to approve anything ideas we come up with, so I don't.
Well, the first step is approving the city to work with the engineers in applying for the, correct?
Yes, sir.
Then we would meet with the community and get steered and get ideas and suggestions on what fits best in that area. Because what we got down there now is a mess. It's a mess, and all we do is throw a couple thousand here, put up a new light. Our kids deserve better. Our community deserves better, and we can come up with 1,000 excuses on why not to fix it. I'm not tired of the excuses, so I'm gonna say we move forward, and if I can't get 2 more of the commissioners to agree, then it'll be done, and I'll never mention it again. But if we can get the support, and I think if you hadn't already got the phone calls, they're coming, because I've been getting them. And it's clear that the ball players, from the guy that's giving of his time, Tim, what's his last name?
He's the one that wanted to.
Tim Peterson, he's like me. He would love a brand new complex out at the Field of Dreams. I would too. That's where I was from day one. That's not gonna happen with the money that we can pull. Not in the next few years. I'm tired of just telling these parents and these ball players, well, we're just waiting on a big pot of money to arrive on a train, then we're gonna spend it for you. Train ain't coming. So let's do something.
But just being a little bit, since we're discussing it, being a little bit devil's advocate, take the money that you're going to, you wanna speak, Mr. Garcia? I see you smiling like you wanna say something. But anyway, the money that we're gonna spend piping the ditch could be used at the other place, at the Field of Dreams. If we're gonna end up spending let's say $2 million on piping that ditch with permits and everything else, with the 1 million that we already set aside and the 2 million, we can do a lot out there. So, I use the statement all the time, lipstick on a pig. And I was 100% on board, and Clay Smallwood and I drew up the plans for new ball fields on 10th Street when we got no support on Field of Dreams. But now the county wants to throw some money at us, for 10th Street. Now, how much? $570-something thousand right there. To make any of it work, you're gonna have to have a commitment from the county. And if you get a commitment from the county on these dollars, what's wrong with putting those same dollars over here for a brand new complex? You don't have issue on parking, you don't have issue on traffic. You've got unlimited opportunities at that site. And that's, when I didn't get any support, I said, all right, let's do this thing on 10th Street. And, it, of course, didn't work because lawsuits or whatever, I forgot. But county, I really don't understand them. I guess I never will. They willing to pour some money into 10th Street because there's an outside element in my mind that wants Field of Dreams for workforce housing. They always have. And that's what's driving it.
Well,
and so, I'll just say that.
Yeah, and I agree with everything you just said.
Yeah.
I just, in my mind, I think that if I look at the background, when I got involved, we were tasked with a decision, Field of Dreams, 10th Street. And ultimately, is I voted with you to go to Field of Dreams. But ultimately, we didn't get it that way, and it went to 10th Street. Well, then the funding from the county was pledged for 10th Street. Now, some believe that that money then, after the lawsuit was filed, went to the golf course purchase.
Yep.
Okay, and that may be, I don't know, but I mean, it made sense. But anyway, we were already at the agreement of 10th Street. And the only thing that stopped us was the lawsuit. The lawsuit's resolved. It's not still pending, it's resolved. The judge that oversaw it says, here's what you got to do. You just have to have workshops, put in for a plan, meet the requirements that we would do anyway. Then the county was like, I think they were not happy that we settled the lawsuit. We didn't just let it run its course. I will never support settling again. We'll tie up the attorneys and we'll go to the fifth end, because I think that you'll see a different outcome. So the fact that we had already agreed on 10th Street and now we have the county back with an interest of funding. That's why I said, well, let's take advantage of the opportunity and the timing that we have. I would still love to have Field of Dreams, but even the money that we're talking here currently, we're not gonna have a Field of Dreams. That's probably an $8 to $10 million project.
And that was my next question.
It's too much money.
Was there ever takeoffs done, renderings of what Field of Dreams could be? Was there, and at that time, X number of years ago, was there costs put down? So
The problem is you got a clean slate out there. It'd be wonderful to have a Field of Dreams, but the problem is you don't have roads, utilities, you have a
I agree totally. So other than building the park, there's infrastructure that has to take place. But that kind of has to be worked into the whole cost of the project. And I don't know where that number.
I just kept hearing $10 million and that didn't come from me, so.
That was if you do the whole 9 yards and not just start with ball fields. That number.
Infrastructure to.
Yeah, infrastructure and just X number of ball fields and, millions type parking lot to start with, just start small and work up to it. But I don't have a problem in the world with improving 10th Street, because I was on board with the other part of 10th Street. But I don't want to end up spending a bunch of money on piping the ditch and engineering, and then we don't have anything to show for it, except the ditch is covered up. We don't have any ball fields, we don't have any new lights.
Well, how about this idea? We talk about it at our next meeting. We approve to have the city apply for the permit. We then find out what it's gonna cost.
Yeah.
Then we ask DEP, can we take that $900,000 then just sitting over there for the city for years now, 5-6 years that I know of, maybe 10, 15, I don't know. Just say, well, can we put that in there? Because, everything changes based on who's in charge of those departments. Everything changes based on the relationship we have with the governor's office. We have a lobbying team now that we didn't have back then. And they can, make some contacts. We may find out that they're gonna let us take the $900,000 and apply it to the ditch program. I just wanna open the door back and start dialogue, conversation, and move in that direction.
Something has to take place one way or the other with our local recreation.
Absolutely.
So
He says embarrassment, it certainly is. It's all been that way for 10, 15 years.
We got people falling on the bleachers, breaking their leg or arm, I forget what was, bleachers literally falling through. We've got in the middle, if you go down there now, you have a indention in the dirt where that pipe is compromised. So when we have a lot of rainwater going through there, we have a cave in. is what's happening. And we got our kids running around on top of them. Enough's enough.
We put a Band-Aid on it for many, many years out
Yeah.
there. I'm afraid that we're gonna get to the.
So y'all, do you agree?
We might not be able to play. We're gonna have to figure something out.
What do you think, Eric?
Fall into.
I think with something, I mean, it's been a while, since we actually put a lot of money into, recreation. I think it's time to move forward with, doing something to help the kids, as far as baseball fields. I'm out there all the time, it definitely needs a lot of work. So,
Here's what disappointed me most is when the Field of Dreams project was brought up and Tim came to us and so on and so forth. And of course, we needed county's participation to make that thing happen. But I think this one most is we didn't have an outcry of mamas and daddies that kids are playing ball down there, show up at the county and say, y'all need to help the city make this thing work. They were like, practically non-existent. And that's what made things work. If you get folks show up at that meeting room every meeting and fill that room up, say, this is what our kids deserve, this is what we need, and here's the plan.
I can have a
We
beer
didn't get
Tuesday.
that.
If that'll help change our opinion, I can fill this room full of ball players at our next meeting.
I
Then we
think our
go
opinion
to the county.
I
solidified.
think it's important to get, community involved. I think it's important to get ideas from the kids that actually playing out there, so with workshops and different ideas. I think that we can move forward with improving 10th Street and also keep the idea of Field of Dreams, I mean, I don't know how many years it'll take for us to complete a project as far as Field of Dreams, but I know that we definitely need something done at this moment. 10th Street. Because that's where our kids are playing.
The only place we got.
Yeah, we got people that are in their 60s and 70s that play ball down there. And I guess this is on my mind even more because last night I watched back-to-back Little League World Series ball games, and I see what they have available, and, you got kids that are now playing professional ball that were in that program. And I asked him if we could switch and become Little League, instead of DCU, and, I don't understand why we're not, but I think it should be. So, anyway, that's all I have.
Yeah, that's
Well, I think
gotta start.
got it on the agenda to discuss it,
Yeah, we have it on the agenda.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I got one thing before we go, I got a phone call from Pastor Rogers, and, he was inquiring on, remember when Mr. Davis came in and wanted to put trees down, I think, Avenue D?
Yes, and of course, he's passed away.
And, I think it's a group that still wants to do it, he hasn't given me all the information. I asked him what type of trees, because when I talked to John, we were talking about how difficult it would be for palm trees to take care of them, the maintenance and things like that, so. I think I was gonna talk to him about something like, fake murder or something like that down.
Yeah.
But once I get, could you put it on the agenda,
Yes, sir.
to discuss it? I'll talk to him this weekend and, I'll get more information, I'll bring it to the board too.
Because, we do, and I think they were wanting to do it on Avenue C or D. I believe it was D, if I remember right. But, of course, we want to pave that to match up the other end from 98 MLK, C and D, to get those two paved to make the whole length of C and D brand new. But on D, it seemed like there wasn't any way you could plan
Yeah,
it.
I was looking at that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people park.
You've got the swales, the parking, you've got utilities, there's a lot of issues that could be very.
Let me, talk with him and maybe,
We can find some other areas in the community there that they might go along with that make it a lot easier.
While we're on that, what's the status on the RFQs for parking overall with Martin Luther King and between A and C?
We have advertised for, property to see about if we can get RFQs in. We've had some inquiries in there. I don't know that we've received yet. I think it closes at 2 more weeks.
So,
There's a, property that came up today, I get a little blurb on what's come up for this week, I guess, or this day. There's a lot on Avenue B for $65,000. I'm not exactly sure where it is. I could give you let's see, let me look here real quick. I can tell you the address.
Did we send letters out? Did we just advertise?
We sent letters out to.
to each property that joins Martin Luther King, it went 2 lots over on either side. Each of those were sent a letter. So we did reach out to property owners
Here
to Avenue B.
it's right
You
here.
have it, did
Yes, sir.
I think it's
The address is 0 Avenue B. So is that right over by Taco Bell or something?
It may not have an address if it's a vacant lot.
Yeah, like a stone.
I think there's one available in the 300 block, I think.
I know it's a couple of houses down from Taco Bell in that little field right there.
I think it may be in the 300 block area.
Oh,
That's what it's,
Where the apartments used to be on the left, is that where
Yeah.
you?
it's coming, I'm gonna show you, picture.
Because if it's a 0, it's never had utilities. To have utilities, it's
Didn't
got.
have enough.
So it would be a neutral field or woods or something.
This is, here, that's it, right there. It's a nice looking lot. It's all, trees and the grass is cut and
yeah,
It's like-
it's Whitfield. Remember Miss Whitfield, the teacher?
Yeah.
She used to live there, but they tore it, it was built like an apartment, green apartment complex, but with
Yeah.
brick house there.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, that's a nice piece of property.
Them is Gant's, like,
Right, yeah.
So is that way off 98 or is that near MLK?
It's like, yeah, between, Taco Bell and, okay,
It's right past Ms. Gant's house here.
2 houses down, yeah, 2 houses down.
Might be something that,
yeah,
the
it's 65.
Gee, I should feel right. 50 by 110. 50 wide, 110 deep.
That ain't that many parking, that's just like a quarter.
It's a standard residential.
Yeah.
Block.
The parking spot is what, 11 feet wide?
9 feet, it depends on the angle, 10 feet preferably in some cases, by 20, you got cold water, you got a lot of things.
I'd buy it just to buy it, turn around, sell it in 2 years, $150,000. Yeah, you're not gonna lose on $65,000.
You have to make ingress and egress, probably using the alley or something. That way you could drive through and have angle parking or something.
Yeah, you see you can see all the way through it to, Avenue C. So you can,
Yeah,
I think I probably on the other side.
who's got it listed as a,
it doesn't say who's listed. I get this, wait a minute, yeah, it does. Hold on. Port Realty Group, maybe?
well, after this meeting goes on television, it'll be 19 people trying to buy it.
So if you want it, you better go get it.
Oh, Lord, anybody else got anything?
May I digress to talking about positions while ago, Commissioner Scott and Hopkins, Commissioner Hopkins. We do advertise them on the Gulf Coast Workforce Forward, Career Source.
Yeah.
They do carry our advertisements and that reaches out much further than like a local website and all. But the majority of the people that we go in and can look at who has applied, they're nowhere around here. They're way off.
Does the city have, any kind of LinkedIn page?
That's,
There you go.
We didn't have social media until last 4
LinkedIn,
years.
LinkedIn is now how most people are getting job leads.
Yes.
pretty simple setup. I can probably help with that. So
All right, good. Probably, what's it cost?
It's free.
Free.
Yeah, my daughter got a job with Progressive Insurance from that website.
yeah, can you build on it? Yeah, it's
What's the name of it?
LinkedIn.
It's almost like social media.
Oh, yeah, it's social media for business.
LinkedIn.
Yeah.
All right, nothing else. Let's move on. Have a good day, everybody. No, I guess. Scan.
When you hold our next.
Oh, yeah, guys, we got to do